Welcome to the BraveTalk Podcast, where we interview your favorite UNC Pembroke personalities and keep you up to date on everything happening with Braves athletics. Here's your host, Dick Christie.
All right, welcome back to the BraveTalk Podcast. I am Dick Christie. I have the privilege of being the athletics director and part-time podcast host. We are joined by our legendary head wrestling coach, first time on the program. And I understand this is going to be a consistent thing for you, podcasting. So we'll get into that a little bit later, getting to do your own podcast show as well. But O.T. Johnson, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm glad to have the opportunity, and hopefully I can educate people on some things wrestling and some things not wrestling. So let's get it.
Plenty of things not wrestling as well, but let's start with wrestling. OT, 5th in the country, highest ranking in the history of the program. And obviously, you know, I'm proud of you guys, and that's fun to say. But when you say the history of a program that has been a perennial, national qualifier, nationally relevant program, really pioneer in Southeast wrestling, what does it mean to you to be able to say this is the highest we've ever been ranked as a team?
Well, I think it says a lot about where we're headed as a program. Obviously, under your leadership and our leadership as a coaching staff, and just as an athletics department. You know, we have a lot of good things going on here at UNCP, and we're proud to be one of those bright spots this year thus far as a team that's ranked obviously as high as 5th in some polls, and in other polls, we're definitely in the top 10 in all polls that are out there. So it's a testament to the kids that we recruited. And the coaching staff, what those guys do on a daily basis to make my life easy and to help make sure the kids are doing the things they need to do on the mat and obviously in competition. So, rankings are great. Anybody that says they don't look at them, they're foolish and they're a liar, I think. I think it's great when we let our guys know. It's good to embrace those rankings because you've earned the right to be looked at as, number one in your weight class or whatever in your weight class. And obviously as a team, collaboratively, you guys have done a good enough job for the rankers to feel like you guys belong here if the tournament was to be held today. So we're proud, but obviously we have some ways to go to climb higher, and obviously for our ultimate goal to bring one of the 4 NCAA trophies home. So we're excited for the opportunity, and we're working every day to try to get there.
Yeah, you mentioned the guys in the room and a number of individual accolades that are pacing in the right direction. Had a number 1 ranked wrestler at one point last year in Logan Saliga, our SAC president. Got a number 1 ranked guy at 174 right now. Love talking to our guys about the impact Scotty's had in the room. Talk about just what he brings and how he pushes guys and what that's done for your team this year.
Yeah, I think first you got to talk about the relationship aspects of that. Obviously having Logan on our roster, allows the opportunity to be able to get Scotty. So I think from a program building standpoint, you got to rely on your athletes. Our athletes are our best recruiters. So when we bring a recruit on campus, we make sure the guys interact with them. So, Scotty's bring a different aspect, bring a different way of thinking, bring a different way of training, and bring a different way of competing,
Yeah.
So the guy is not afraid to make mistakes in the room. And I think that's some of the guys look at, like when he gets taken down in the room, everybody's eyes get big. And, I think him getting taken down in the room, doing things and trying things, lets the guys know it's okay to let it fly. That's the one play you can make mistakes, and it doesn't really harm you. No one's keeping records in the room. If you are, we gotta check you, because that's the one play we tell the guys, let's make as many mistakes as we can here. Let's fail as much as we can, and he does a good job of that, and it's shown in his wrestling when he goes out there. Obviously, he's a little bit more calculated in how he picks and chooses his leg attack. So it's been good to have him, and it's been good for the guys, the guys that are younger and even the older guys to kind of see how he comes to the table, what he brings to the table from a competing standpoint, and his mindset. That's been one of the things I think that set him apart from all, if not most of the guys on our roster, just his mindset, the way he thinks about wrestling and the way he approaches it from a competitive standpoint.
And the contrast of, that extreme talent level, obviously a Division I transfer, but still extremely coachable.
Yeah. So, most guys that are coming from that level, they probably think they're better than, guys at the Division II level, and in a lot of cases those guys get humbled, and the one thing Scotty might do a little too much is he worries too much about who he's competing against. I think you should always worry about your opponents. You want to study, and I think that's great. That's one thing that he does do a good job of. He knows who he's wrestling against, so he knows what the person might bring, and that's a part of competition, to study your opponent, and he does a good job of that. And obviously we're able to coach him on the other little pieces. Hey, don't look too much into it. Don't forget you're pretty dang good yourself. So these guys have to worry about you as well. And he's done a good job of taking our advice. Not from the mat. The guy's been wrestling dang most of his life, and he's trying to pick our brain on other things. How to handle himself from a weight control standpoint. How to deal with things off the mat. And I think from that aspect, he's seen a different side of coaching. Where yes, we're invested in him wanting him to win, but I think he wants to win more for us because we're able to talk to him about the things outside of wrestling, how to get himself prepared for life after wrestling. Force him to speak up in practice. Force him to talk. In the one place where he's uncomfortable, and I think he's embraced it. Not the greatest public speaker yet, but he's getting better at it, and he's embraced that that aspect of being a total athlete. So.
He's Pembroke through and through. He's been a great addition to campus, that's for sure. Let's switch gears a little bit. Look big picture. I know you've got some strong opinions on this, as do I, as we've chatted before. But you look at Scotty, you look at some of our other Division I transfers. There's a lot of talk about the transfer portal and NIL and its impacts on what the bill of goods that some other bigger institutions may or may not be selling students. But we are seeing a trend of students who are really looking for athletics in the right focus and education within reason, and not maybe getting out of scope on some of the false promises of NIL, because we have seen a good number of Division I transfers coming back to our level and having some success here. So talk a little bit about NIL and how it's affecting what you're doing, how you're positioning it when people want to bring it up in the recruiting process.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, since it started, a year and a half ago or so, maybe a little longer. At the time, most people thought it was going to be an overall, carte blanche thing with all the college athletics. And then people don't realize this, that's for the, for the top 25 or so programs in the country and in athletics. And, for us, NIL has been really, it's been really unique. We've had some guys that are very dynamic guys. I don't even want to call it NIL deals. They have some, what do they call it, ambassadorship or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. They're brand ambassadors, so
influencers, brand
ambassadors. Right. And so those guys are getting, a percentage or,
the Jake Piccarillis of the world,
yes,
and protein shakes.
And I mean, he was going to get on social media and promote himself anyway. So now he's doing it. He's getting a little kickback from a couple of things, and he's doing it all within reason. He's not getting exploited. And he's not doing anything that's harmed his wrestling. Obviously, he's ranked 5th in the country.
Exploited as a key word.
And I think one of the great things we've done here as a department is educate our athletes. That hey, you can get exploited if you don't have the right people around you. And we have a great resource in Christina here that makes sure that our guys, and we tell our guys, if you got something, make sure you let her know, because you don't want to sign the wrong deal and then you're having to make 50,000 posts and you get 10 cents for it. That's not a good. That's not a good business move, and it's all a part of the education of the student athlete as a whole. And I think we don't really see the effects of it here because our athletes do want to actually participate in their sport, and first and foremost. And if those opportunities come, for the most part, our guys are talking to her and getting our opinions on how they should handle it, and what they should do about certain things. And we do our best to try to make sure they don't get exploited. One, and two, they're not spending more time on trying to satisfy the NIL or brand ambassador obligation than they are on their actual craft in wrestling and academics. So, but it's unfortunate for some of the kids at the higher level that put so much into it that they forgot that, you're getting, for example, at a Duke or Carolina, you're getting during their $60,000 education, and you're worried more about a $5,000 NIL deal, where, 5 years later, that's not going to be in existence, and you're going to be out of an education. So
exactly.
I think that's the misconception there. Now, hopefully it's starting to settle down now, and there's been some stepping with the NCAA that hopefully we'll see some light at the end of the tunnel where it's going to settle down and people are going to actually understand. The general public doesn't understand that this is bigger than what it seems, and really kids are getting exploited. And fortunately for us at UNCP, our athletes have done a good job of making sure they don't get exploited, and they're not putting that much emphasis into trying to get NIL deals. They're focusing more on their craft.
Yeah, I think when we had that meeting at the beginning of the year, it was Forbes who had done the research. If you're at a mid-major level, you might be making $35 a month in NIL, and D2 kids making $31 a month. Like this is not a sustainable income. Let's not force ourselves in a position we got to take an extra semester to graduate because we're spending all that time trying to be an influencer. So yeah, it's powerful. I think seeing some of the parents that are engaged in the recruiting process from some of these Division I students that are considering it, I think you see a lot of reason in their thinking that, you know, these things are getting out of hand. I like the idea of getting to a level that athletics is a purer sense and maybe what it was, 10 and 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So coaching wise, we're wrapping up 12th season. You've got three national champions under your belt in 12 seasons, one regional title. I've actually got the regional title ring on the desk here, which in my opinion is the best looking ring that we have ever done at UNCP. Hopefully we'll get a chance at another one of those real soon. But last year you were the Bob Bub Coaching Excellence Award winner for all of wrestling. Congratulations. What did that award mean to you when you got it?
Well, obviously I'm very humbled to be considered, the Bob Bub Coaching Mentorship Award. Obviously, when we recruit kids, we let their parents know, as long as they trust us to be a good representation of them in their absence, we're going to try to make sure their young men get out of here, not just with a college education and a good wrestling experience, but we're going to try to equip them with as much knowledge and as many resources as we can. And, and it goes beyond the wrestling mat and trying to make sure we put these guys in a position to volunteer in the community. And I think that's a big thing. We never want these guys to leave Pembroke without getting out in the community. Obviously with the Braves Buddy program and, some of the other things we do on UNCP campus with our blood drive and just trying to make sure our guys are visible. Whenever we get a chance to, we try to get them out in the community to help out. When there's a professor on campus that needs help moving things, if there's a community member that needs help, just moving things from point A to point B, we try to make sure our guys are visible. And and actually I learned later that I was nominated by one of my former athletes as a head coach elsewhere. Just understanding all those things. That
makes it mean that much more.
Yeah, so it was very humbling, and for my colleagues to understand that. There's a few of those colleagues, obviously a couple of my former athletes that understand what we do here from a volunteer standpoint, and another colleague that I didn't work with here, but is in the coaching ranks that understand what Pembroke is about and what we have to do to get our athletes to be all in. It was very humbling to be considered, the mentor of the year in Division II wrestling, so to speak. So, it's a testament to the kids. They understand what we're about and what we want them to become in the future. Win or lose wrestling matches, we want them to try to learn life lessons through wrestling and through UNCP athletics. And, more or less, our guys are getting out of here and with some good quality experiences, and they're going into the world prepared to compete, not just for job, preparing to compete every day and not put their head down. So again, that award is humbling, and it's a testament of what we've built here at UNCP, not just in the wrestling room, but in our athletic department.
Well, nobody's more consistent in providing that than you. And talking about being engaged in the community, connecting wrestling to the community in a meaningful way. Nobody maybe pioneered that more than PJ Smith. Losing Coach Smith this fall, I thought that our program did an outstanding job in trying to just recognize his legacy and find a way to use that big match that coincided with that week of his passing. Talk a little bit about what it meant with the outreach of the wrestling community, his former athletes, just wrestling in general in North Carolina as they showed their outpouring of support for what he meant.
Absolutely. Wrestling in North Carolina, obviously, in Robeson County, Southeast North Carolina, and nationally, they got a lot of phone calls, got a lot of text messages from coaches, that I haven't seen, or coaches that are retired that just PJ touched in one way or another. And I think it was a testament to what he's, the foundation he laid here for myself to be in the position I'm in now. And just, like I said in the interview I did earlier, that one hit different, just because his impact on me as an assistant coach. I wasn't even the head coach when he retired, but put me in a position to be able to come here and have an opportunity to start coaching and not have to worry about a place to live, and just being there, giving us opportunity to earn money. Never giving money, but giving us an opportunity to earn it. And I think that was one of the big things Coach Smith was a pioneer of, making sure he gave everyone an opportunity that wanted to be better than where they were before. He was going to put you in the best position to be better than what you were. And that's what he did with countless of, coaches, businessmen, doctors, lawyers that are around the country now that called him coach. And, and I'm grateful and proud to have known him as a high school athlete, and obviously as an assistant coach here and as a college athlete. And I'm grateful to have been recruited by him. Unfortunately, I didn't accept the offer to wrestle under him, but Coach Smith was a legend, and we talk wrestling, but he impacted thousands of others in his swim school that he held here for 20 plus years, even after he retired.
Yeah, it didn't stop it with wrestling, with his community impact, that's for sure.
We all try to embody what PJ was about, and we do our best, and hopefully when it's all said and done, people can put us in the same category as Coach Smith, and every day we wake up, we try to do what try to think what will PJ do, and he'll roll up his sleeves and he'll try to help not just his athletes, wrestlers, but he'll try to help someone else in the community, because he was for sure the embodiment of Pembroke athletics and Pembroke as a whole. So that one hit different, and it still hits different to this day. And the wrestling community, Robeson County, North Carolina, nationally, people. There's a lot of stories that I'm still hearing, about Coach Smith, and I think he left a lasting impact that I think is going to live in infamy here at UNCP and obviously nationally wise.
He was gritty. He was going to tell you what he thought, but I don't think anybody, when you got to their core, cared more. I've told you the story before. I knew PJ's brother long before I knew PJ. I knew of him as an NC State wrestler, and when I finally had the chance to meet him, I was like, oh my God, he and his brother are clones of each other. Yes. Same person. They're going to give you the honest truth and just be as loyal and dedicated as you could possibly be. Sandy Smith at Virginia Tech and PJ here. So an awesome legacy to continue. And, along those lines, PJ for a long time, he got involved at the state level because of how much he tried to sustain wrestling, how he tried to get it to catch on and become more prominent in the Southeast and in our region, and making it sustain at the collegiate level. I think after the recession in 08-09, we saw this trend where men's wrestling was kind of a sacrificial lamb for a number of departments that were trying to cut budgets and trying to make things work. And we've seen an amazing resurgence. I mean, wrestling arguably is the most popular sport to be added in the country right now. What do you see? You've been in the business the whole time. What do you see as a contrast, and how's wrestling capitalizing on that momentum right now?
Yeah, wrestling is one of the sports until the last 10 years or so. Obviously institutions, that were enrollment driven, I don't think they really understood, the return on investment. From a business standpoint, a lot more kids are getting an opportunity to go and compete in college. Obviously we've benefited from that, even though we've been around for a long time. I mean, we have 50 plus guys in our roster, and other schools and institutions are starting to see that. I can get a wrestling room, 2-3 mat wrestling room, and I can be able to, if I have a good coach in place and I have a good recruiter, I can get anywhere from 30 to 50 wrestlers in my institution that are paying customers. And I think as that's caught on, the addition of women's wrestling is starting to have a huge impact on these institutions as well. So it's like basketball, right? You have one gym, you have two teams, and I think institutions finally starting to catch on. Okay, well, why would I just house one team if I can house two teams? And from a male team standpoint, more and more schools are adding. It's really helped, and going back to Coach Smith, Coach Smith pioneered a lot of these schools that have had wrestling for 10 plus years, the Newberries, the Limestones, the St. Andrews right up the road, and obviously, with Dan Willis up at Mount Olive as a UNCP alum coaching there, and just a lot of these schools, they saw what UNCP was doing, and while other programs are dropping, these schools saw an opportunity and they've taken advantage of it, and wrestling has blossomed and it's helped, keep UNCP wrestling relevant. So now we are, we're in the Conference Carolinas now, where our travel, we have one trip that's far, where a couple years ago we were going 8+ hours for one dual meet in our conference. That shows the growth of the sport and what the institution is seeing about it, and the benefit that it brings to the athletic department to the institution as a whole. So this growth is good for the sport. It's good for college athletics. And you're seeing more and more conferences starting to make it a conference sport, which again, now our guys get a chance to talk with their fellow athletes on campus. For example, I know we're recording today, but today, men's basketball and women's basketball get to play Mount Olive, and then on Sunday we get to wrestle Mount Olive. So that kind of camaraderie among the student athletes to know that, hey, we're gonna kick their butt when we go over there. I hope you guys kick their butt too, so we can both have a good laugh, and vice versa. It's good for athletics, and it's good for the kids to be able to have that common ground where we're all trying to fight as a department to win the Hong Cup, and we know we can play a part in it. Where in the past we couldn't, because it was just like, well, we're independent. So now we have more schools in the conference that have sponsored the sport, and it's made it more fun. It's made that championship experience for our athletes even more enjoyable.
Well, I think that camaraderie and collegiality definitely is driven home. I don't think it's unfair to say that our wrestlers are probably the number one fans for our other athletic teams, which shows your push for them to be engaged on campus. They're usually the rowdiest fans we've got at soccer and basketball and football and everywhere else. So kudos to you with how you get those guys engaged in other platforms. I'm glad you mentioned Dan at Mount Olive. Another UNCP legend, and doing a great job in getting that program off the ground. You're undefeated in the East Division right now, so it's looking like that Mount Olive match is going to be big. Talk about what's at stake there and what our opportunity is if we can take care of business.
Yeah, so both teams are undefeated in the East Division right now. So Sunday will be the de facto division championship. Obviously, we have one match after that against Belmont Abbey, but for all intents and purposes, us meeting on Sunday is going to really determine who's going to be in the front, in the driver's seat. Obviously, if when we go and take care of business on Sunday, we'll be in the driver's seat as we've taken care of who we think are our biggest threat in Newberry, and at the time on Sunday will be Mount Olive. So Coach Willis has done a good job there. Obviously, he's brought a lot of North Carolina kids, and he's also going out and recruited nationally. Kudos to him. But on Sunday, no kudos to him. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna take what we've rightfully earned, and we'll put them in their place. And it's gonna be a great rivalry. It's a great rivalry to know that there's a commonality there. We both understand Pembroke. We've both been in the trenches here, and we're gonna make sure we get our guys fired up and ready to rock and roll. We try to load up a couple of extra vans to make sure all of our guys that are not wrestling are in the stands, cheering their starters and teammates on.
That's awesome. Well, good luck. I know that it'll be a hotly contested match, and a lot of close bouts for sure. So what are we doing with our free time these days? All the abundance of free time you have after recruiting, study hall, coaching, teaching, and managing a roster of 50+ guys. What are you doing to unwind?
Well, as of late, I've been a softball dad. As you may or may not know, been involved with Norris softball
and coach,
team.
Right? Not just softball dad.
Yeah,
softball dad gets to kind of go off the handle and hang out on the side with his Yeti cup.
Yeah.
Softball coach, that's a whole nother deal.
Well, I put the ball where they tell me to put the ball, and then I stand where they tell me to stand, and obviously I'm just the dad coach that just does what head coach Johnny Britt says and what assistant coach Ivy Johnson says. So I'm the coach helper.
Better listen to that assistant coach.
Yeah, so it's been fun. It's something that I never knew I would get this involved in, but we're gonna try to keep that well running. And Nora supported me through my endeavors and helped me get to this point for a long time, and it's time to give back. And we're super fortunate that her sport of choice is in the spring and in the fall, so it doesn't really impact with wrestling as much. And it's been fun. Again, being in a new realm, trying to learn something new and try to learn how to motivate young ladies. And it's a bunch of little girls, 14-year-old girls, trying to get them to understand athletics without going overboard, but also being stern with them. It's been a gratifying experience, and I'm grateful for it. But outside of that, and I wish I get back to this more. I want to get back on the boat. Try to go do some angling there in the ocean. And who knows, maybe even in the lake, and try to catch some fish here. But
we keep threatening to get Willie out there. We got to find a date to do that.
All right. Well, I'll definitely. When
you're on the boat, the fish bite. That was a fantastic day. Lord didn't stay in the water long.
We gotta get back out there. Hopefully, we'll get Willie to listen to the pod here, and then we can also get our alumni that's has a fishing charter. Oh my goodness, what's his name?
Roy
Heverly.
Yeah, Captain Roy Heverly.
Big time.
Legend up in Morehead City.
Yes, area. Yes. So Roy, you're being challenged to get us on that boat. Every time you post a picture on social media.
We do take coupons and free trips for Cash Bash. That wouldn't be bad.
There we go. But that's another thing I enjoy doing. I enjoy the ocean. Obviously, I lived pretty much right on the ocean until I moved to the States. So, that's something I've always had a love for, the ocean, the water, and just being around it and, trying to figure out what's out there and, being on the boat gets us to get a little glimpse of what's out there. At least sometimes we can catch them and we can eat some of them. So that's fun as well.
So, and then in your even broader free time, you are the president of the NWCA right now, correct?
Correct. So I'm in my.
So what all is entailed in that, and how did that come about? Congratulations.
Well, I would like to thank Mike Whaler for that nomination. But I think it's something that every coach, anyone that stays in the business past 10 years or even 5 years, they need to make sure they understand how things get done behind doors. And I think for any coach that wants to get further into coaching and learn about the full profession, you need to be on some type of committee and or board. And this has been a fun endeavor for me. Again, there are a lot of things as a coach just standing by. You wonder what happens, how this happened, how do we get to this decision? And for once, I get a chance to say, wow, that's what happened. That's how these rules are made.
There was a lot that went to it.
There's a lot more that goes to it. And I was nominated by Mike. Mike told me he thinks it'll be good for my career and good for me to understand how the needle gets moved. And obviously, I respect Mike a lot, so I oblige to it. And to say the least, I'm on a meeting at least once a week. Whether it's the leadership group.
Yeah, it's a heavy lift at the national level for sure.
The ranking committee, the coaches' connections with the NCAA. So every meeting that's held, I have to be there to represent the Division II wrestling coaches. So it's a great undertaking. It's a privilege, and it's something that I enjoy doing. And again, it gives me a chance to see different perspectives. And I think like I said, any young coach that wants to stay in the business long needs to understand why things happen and how they happen, and that things don't just pop out of the blue and get put into law. And there's a lot of voting that has to happen, and people, there's a lot of checks and balances. And I get an email every day about, coach, here's what we got in front of us. Do you agree with it? Every agenda item has to be passed, and I have to give a lot of agenda item my blessings. And so, again, as a leader and someone that wants to learn, more about leadership, this has been a journey, and it's been fun so far. So I got 2 more years after this year to enjoy this beautiful leadership role.
That's awesome, man. Kudos. So we talked about you being a girl dad, right? Ruby and Nora. So I'm gonna tee this one up for you, just giving you a chance to brag on the misses. So UNCP celebrating our 50th anniversary of women's athletics. Your bride, Ivy, 2-sport athlete for the Braves, and was featured, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago as one of our 50th anniversary representatives. Talk about the pride that brought you, and what Ivy thought of that.
Man, hey, I'll kick my coverage. That's for sure. I can't think of a better person to lead our household, and better woman to have daughters with. As a girl dad, I get asked all the time, do you want to have another one to have a boy? And I'm like, no, I deal with these guys every day. I get tired of it, so.
Do they fully appreciate, or do they get when they saw that graphic of mom back in her playing days?
I don't think Ruby understood that was mom, and she's never seen Ivy in her basketball uniform and things like that. So she hasn't. Nora, on the other hand, Nora's young enough to understand, mom was an athlete. Mom is still an athlete. Mom will still kick my butt in basketball, and mom will still run circles around every single girl on her basketball team now. So it's great to see the NCAA celebrating, women's athletics, women's sports, and UNCP has done a great job, every week, recognizing some of the pioneers of UNCP athletics, and I'm proud to be married to one of those pioneers and one of those legends, someone that didn't just come to college and did one sport, but did multiple sports and excelled at both. I guess really 3 sports, basketball, indoor, cross country, and outdoor track. So to have someone like that, for my daughters to have her bloodline, the sky's the limit for them. And again, like I said, I'll kick my coverage, and every accomplishment they have, I point at her and I say she did it. So I'm grateful, and I'm forever indebted to know that I'll kick my coverage.
you and I both. These jobs are a two-person job, and it's impossible to do without that supportive spouse. So that's awesome. Kudos, and appreciate you joining the podcast, man. We'll give you a shout out. You've got a podcast coming up. You want to share what that's all about?
Yeah. So I got a podcast coming out. It's called First to Four. So it talks about first generation college graduate with a bachelor's degree. Well, that's going to be our focus. So really just give students or aspiring college students an opportunity to see where people in their position have been, were, and just give inspirational stories to people that are struggling. Maybe you're a college freshman and wondering how you're going to make it through. So listen to our podcast will help you just understand that it's not all peaches and cream. There can be some tough times in a row, and just these people, all of us, myself included, had to navigate those roads. It may not be 4 years to get the 4-year degree. You might have to stop. Some people had to stop for 10 plus years, but they went back to finish. So we're gonna focus on some of those stories and try to get people to understand that anything worth doing is it's worth doing the right way. And hopefully we can get a handful of listeners that might be listening to this podcast that might have someone that may be a great inspirational story to reach out to us to get us on the pod.
That's a great cause, man. Good luck with all of it. Bob Bub, Mentoring Excellence winner, NWCA president, legend, future Hall of Famer, head wrestling coach O.T. Johnson. Thank you for joining the podcast. As always, appreciate everything you're doing, man.
All right. Go Braves.
Go Braves.